Wheel of Time community, and welcome to the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru. I'm Teresa.
And I'm Tim.
And together, we are going to walk through Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time book series. How you doing, Tim?
Doing good. It's a little cold here in Southern California for a change, which is interesting.
Yeah, don't complain. It's nice.
Oh, yeah, it's nice. It's going to be really, really warm this
The magical
summer.
season of Christmas is upon us, and I want to feel very cold.
For all 2 weeks, yes.
Yeah, okay. Before we get started, we just want to remind you that this is a reread. We assume that you have read the entire series, so there will be spoilers. You have been warned. All right, Tim, what are we going to be doing in today's episode?
Today we're going to be discussing chapters 33 and 34 of the Dragon Reborn, where Min's vision starts coming true, and Perrin encounters an Aiel in a cage. Chapter 33 is called Within the Weave, and the icon is the wheel.
Here's a quick summary to act as a reminder for those of you who are not reading along with us. Moraine had been pushing the group hard since leaving Jara. From the saddle, Perrin sees what looks like dogs' footprints in a stone slab, but there are no other footprints in the soft earth, and there is no smell of dogs, just a faint trace in the air of something burned, almost like sulfur. He doesn't know what it means, and he's too tired to try to puzzle it out. Afraid to dream, Perrin has not allowed himself to get a sound sleep if he could help it, and the strain is beginning to show. Evidence of Rand's passing left a clear path to follow. Not every village had been affected by him, but there was more than enough happening in the villages that had been. One village had been burned to the ground, every single building burned to ash. Another town was celebrating that the village spring was flowing again, saving the town after everyone had thought there was nothing left but to move away. In another, every well had gone dry at once, and people were muttering about the Dark One. One town saw every argument the villagers ever had come back with a vengeance, and it had taken 3 murders to shock everyone back to his senses. Finally, the mayor in a town where the crops were failing had found rotted leather sacks full of gold that Moraine said had been minted in Manetheren, so none would go hungry. Perrin finally asked how Rand can be causing all this misfortune. He can't believe that Rand is evil, so why is the pattern shaping itself around him in such an evil way? Moraine explains that the pattern is neither good nor evil. The wheel weaves in all lives and actions, and, shit happens. Perrin has a hard time accepting this concept, uncomfortable with gray area. They get to the village of Raymond, and for once the people seem to recognize Loyal as an ogier. Perrin catches a fleeting scent of wrongness that he recognizes from Jara but still can't place. In the town square, they find an Aiel hanging in an iron cage. Some boys threw rocks at him as he stared straight ahead. They take rooms at an inn and see that the patrons are dressed in their feast day clothes. The innkeeper tells them that they have 2 hunters of the horn in town, Lord Orban and Lord Gan. He explains that with 10 retainers, they engaged 20 wild, savage Aiel just a mile or 2 upriver. They supposedly fought valiantly, but 6 of their retainers died, and they were all injured. They said they killed all the Aiel that didn't run away, except for the one they took prisoner. A heavily bandaged Orban limps over to them on crutches, demanding to know where the healer went, and Perrin can see right away that he's an asshat. 12 of you fought 20 Aiel? Lan asked in a flat voice. Orban does some bragging, and Lan some questioning. They find out White Cloaks are in town. Eventually, the innkeeper takes them to their rooms, but Perrin stops at the top of the stairs. He feels someone staring at him. Looking back, he sees a tall young woman in a plain dress divided for riding. She looks away as soon as he turns, but he is certain that she had been the one staring.
Perrin comes to all the wrong conclusions about the paw prints in the stone, but it's kind of understandable. They've been pushing hard for the last few days, and he has not been sleeping. He's afraid of the wolf dreams, and staying awake is his solution. He's got to be beyond exhausted at this point, so his observation skills could be suffering. But again, if he had not blocked out the wolves while he was awake, he would know what is going on.
Yeah, and what kind of plan is not sleeping? How long does he think he can keep that up?
Right? In college, I used to be able to pull an all-nighter once in a while, but days and days trying to stay awake?
Yeah, and he is sleeping a little bit. He's not allowing himself to get any deep sleep, but he is allowing himself sort of shallow sleep. But again, you can only keep that up for a couple weeks before your body just won't function very well anymore.
Yeah, you need your REM sleep. You really do.
Yeah, like even as a 20-year-old man, like he's still, I mean, he's got enough benefit of youth to be able to like push himself and push himself and push himself for like a week or two, maybe even 3. But after 3 weeks of only getting shallow sleep and not getting deep sleep, there's no way he's going to be able to function.
No.
Like this is just not sustainable.
It's a bad plan.
Yeah.
It is kind of cool to get confirmation that Egwene really did share a dream with Perrin a couple chapters back. It helps us sync up the timeline between two groups, and it gives us a sense that the characters are still caught up in the same story. Mm-hmm. It also lets us know that the world of dreams that Egwene went into is the same place as the wolf dream.
Yeah, they're both Tel'aran Riyadh, which is good to know.
Yeah.
The exchange we get between Perrin and Moiraine about good and evil is really interesting. Here's what they say. Quote, "That town burning and the wells failing, and that's evil, Moiraine. I can't believe Rand is evil. The pattern may be shaping itself around him, but how can the pattern be that evil? It makes no sense, and things have to make sense. If you make a tool with no sense to it, it's wasted metal. The pattern wouldn't make waste." Then, skipping down a little, Moiraine was silent for a time, warming her hands. Finally, she spoke while staring into the flames. "The Creator is good, Perrin. The father of lies is evil. The pattern of age, the ageless itself, is neither. The pattern is what is. The wheel of time weaves all lives into the pattern, all actions. A pattern that is all one color is no pattern. For the pattern of an age, good and ill are the warp and the woof."
Yeah, Perrin is having an existential crisis. And he's looking, he needs some reassurance that the world is as he's always been taught it should be. It's time for Perrin to grow up a bit. He needs to learn that while he may have been taught that the world is black and white, and that things are easily sorted into good and bad, the reality is that life is lived in the gray areas.
Yeah.
It's ultimately compromises that make up our existence, and good and bad aren't so easy to define. And it sucks to have to go through this at any age. Doubly so if you're trying to figure out how you fit into the pattern and where you yourself fall on good and bad scale.
Yeah, because Perrin's still not really sure if the wolf thing makes him evil.
Right. The reality is that while Rand is probably a good person, that does not mean that everything he does is going to have capital G good outcomes. Mm-hmm. There is a reason the prophecy says to weep when the dragon has come. It's not really his fault because he can't control it. That's just how it is.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like, Perrin keeps thinking of how, how can this be evil because Rand's not evil? It's like, well, Rand's not doing this on purpose.
Right.
It's not like he's going through the town and going, you get a plague and you get some fortune, Like, he's just trying to get to Tyr, and stuff is happening around him. And it has nothing to do with Rand being good or evil. It just happens,
Yeah. And it's nice to, just take a breath out of everything that's going on in the story to kind of, have that moment of, let's actually bring this out. That's why I kind of like that Perrin and Moiraine have this conversation. It's just, it's really good for Perrin to have to, face this.
Yeah. So Loyal is so excited to be in a town that knows what an Ogier is.
Yeah.
The poor guy is constantly being mistaken for a Trolloc, so it must be a relief to be stared at because people are impressed and not because they're scared or trying to remember where they left their pitchforks.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Perrin encounters the weird wrong smell again. That he can't place. He knows it's not Trollocs or Marajol. And I was really confused about this for a long time. I thought that what he was smelling was Darkhounds.
Yeah.
But he identifies their smell earlier in this chapter as smelling like sulfur or like burning fireworks.
Right.
So this wrong smell turns out to be the gray man that he's smelling.
Oh.
And we'll actually get to that in chapter 43, I believe. But I just wanted to clear up any confusion because I was mixed up about what this was.
I was very much, and I think I still am a little mixed up. But
yeah, like I want to say that when we covered the Jara chapter, I think we said that it was Darkhounds, but we were wrong. It's Gray Men.
Okay.
I figured it out.
Yay,
but I was confused for a while.
We encounter 2 hunters of the horn who are pulling over one on the townspeople.
Yeah.
Growing up in a small town, I totally believe that this kind of thing would happen. Life in a small town is a complicated social structure based on who does and does not know the latest gossip. Sometimes the best way to be on top is to embellish what you, quote-unquote, know a little bit. The more sensational the story you can tell, the more people's boring lives can be held captive, even if just for a little bit. Mm-hmm. That ability to provide release from everyday boredom of small town life is rewarded with a certain amount of social standing. Mm-hmm. The hunters are pushing their grand vision of the story and relying on the public sentiment to override their reason. It's a trick that works in the real world too. Just an observation I wanted to point out as we in America are moving into the 2020 election year. Whatever your political views are, be on the watch for sensationalism and rationally consider the stories people are trying to sell you.
That's good advice. So it's obvious that Lord Orban is full of it.
Yeah.
Everything we've learned about Aiel so far is proof of that. Not only is there no way, even on their best day ever, 12 of them could have defeated 20 Aiel.
Right.
But he said that some of the Aiel ran from the fight. In the Great Hunt, Urian was convinced Perrin was going to kill him, and he just stood there waiting to face whatever came.
Yeah.
These people would never run, even if 20 Aiel faced an army of thousands. Orban tells Lan, no doubt they're hiding their dead now. I've heard they do that. Well, isn't that convenient?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, there's just no way.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Moraine interrupted the innkeeper for Lan's benefit.
Okay.
He was telling Loyal that he regrets not being able to march to the Shining Walls during the war.
Yeah.
So if you read New Spring, then you know that the war was hard on Lan. Mm. This ingratiating fool romanticizing a war he didn't have the courage to fight in would not scan very well from Lan's perspective.
No.
And I only point this out because Moraine has not been treating Lan very well lately. So it's nice to think that she may have been acting to spare his feelings for once, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting read. I hadn't considered that.
I hope that's why.
Me too.
She really needs to treat Lan better.
Yeah, I think so. We have our first glimpse of Fail, but let's deal with that later.
Yeah, I don't have the energy to tackle Fail right now.
No, not right now, no. That wraps up chapter 31. But before we get to chapter 32, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru is brought to you by a musical interlude.
Despite all my rage, I'm still just an Aiel in a cage. Pawn kicks the rocks and still no one comes to my aid. And grown men tell lies of all the adventures they braved. But despite all my rage, I'm still just an Aiel in a cage.
Chapter 34 is called A Different Dance, and the icon is the wheel.
The innkeeper keeps talking as he leads them to their rooms until he gets to a man proclaiming the dragon in Gildan, and Moraine freaks out. He clarifies that it's not someone claiming to be a dragon, but more like a man preaching for the dragon, saying that he's coming to save them all and even the beasts will fight on his behalf. They realize it's Masema, and Moraine angrily takes her leave. When he's finally alone in his room, Perrin tries to puzzle out the girl who was staring at him and the Aiel in the cage and what it has to do with Min's viewing. He decides that he has to do something, so he heads to Moraine's room, knocks once, and goes in. She's not fully dressed when he barges into her room, but she handles the awkward moment with grace. Perrin asks if the hunters and the Aiel are because of Rand, but she doesn't think so. Perrin asks if she or Lan have sensed a dark friend and tells her about the girl who is staring at him. Moraine reminds him that he is a good-looking young man and some girls go for a broad pair of shoulders. He awkwards himself out and down to the common room. There is no sign of the girl, and Orban is front and center, boasting, telling his story yet again. Perrin ducks out and heads to the square. It's deserted, except for him and the man in the cage. Perrin notices that there is no fear scent coming from him. He manages to get the cage down and bust it open, freeing the Aiel, who compliments Perrin on his strength. Perrin urges him to be on his way, but the Aiel has been caged in a cramped position since the day before. He needs a minute to get his legs working again. He introduces himself as Gaul, a stone dog, and they have a convenient expository chat about the waste. Gaul tells Perrin that he's looking for he who comes with the dawn, and Perrin recognizes the name and knows he means Rand. He tells Gaul that the one he's looking for is headed to Tyr. Gaul tells him that prophecy says when the stone of Tyr falls, the Aiel will leave the threefold land at last. They hear someone yell that the savage is loose, and a dozen white cloaks come running with swords drawn. Gaul lifts his black veil and asks Perrin if he likes to dance, then enters the fray with his bare hands. Gaul kicks ass and takes names, moving smoothly from one attacker to the next, almost as if he really was dancing. Between the two of them, they take out all 12 white cloaks, some dead, some just down. Gaul says, "You do not dance the spears badly, Perrin Ibarra." Then he says he will remember to go to Tyr, wishes Perrin water and shade, and runs off. Perrin sees a girl in divided skirts turn to run off and vanish up the street. He runs into Lan, who is fit to 2 nails, at the mess Perrin has made. He orders Perrin to grab Loyal and their horses. They need to get to the docks and on a ship immediately. They both go racing back to the inn.
It says a lot that both Perrin and Lan know right away that the prophet is Massima. The guy was already a few cards short of a full deck at the beginning of this book, and we will continue to see his descent into madness. The guy went off and started a cult.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
Oh, whatever. I'm slow to catch on to things, but Moraine slamming the door in anger is kind of out of character. Like, I get that yet another one of her plans has been put in jeopardy because some idiot goes off half-cocked. But she usually is much more calm than this. Is this an act that she's putting on for the innkeeper? Like, she wants to be perceived as just a highborn lady who's prone to irrational behavior?
No, Moraine's wigging out because the innkeeper scared the crap out of her when she thought he said there was a new false dragon popping up.
Okay, so she's legit wigging.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like, I can't remember where, but somewhere it's explained that the pattern would keep spitting out false dragons until the true Dragon Reborn proclaimed himself, and then that would stop.
Right.
So
okay.
If more men proclaim themselves as dragon, it means that Rand isn't the true dragon after all. And she has risked too much betting on Rand to be wrong now.
Got it. Okay.
So she slams the door because the innkeeper gave her a mild heart attack. And she's pissed at Massima for being the cause.
All right.
Yeah. Also, I love Lan for saying her bite is far worse than her bark. True words were never spoken.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. It sucks that Perrin was not more delicate with asking Lowell to leave him to his own thoughts.
Yeah.
Lowell is so excited about tree sung wood. He's basically saying, so tree singing is my thing, man. And Perrin is just so focused on his inner thoughts that he does not even recognize that he stomped all over his friend.
Yeah.
Like, I do get that Perrin has a lot on his mind and that he needs to sort it out. And Lowell is the kind of person who could potentially go on for hours if he's excited about something. But this was a bit rude.
Yeah.
It would be like if Perrin came in while Lowell was trying to collect his thoughts about Aerith, wanting to show Loyal some rare exotic blacksmith puzzle, and then Loyal was like, oh, that's great. Can you leave me now?
Yeah. And I feel really bad that Loyal didn't get to sleep in his Sungwon bed.
Yeah, right?
He was so excited.
Yeah, Perrin messed it all up.
Yeah.
So Perrin walks in on Moraine getting settled for the night and has a moment of awkwardness. Mm-hmm. I guess no one explained to him that knocking should be followed up by waiting for a response before barging in.
Yeah.
I've heard other podcasts, and I've read things on various social media where a lot of fans think that this moment is kind of a sexual tension thing or something like that. And I disagree. It's not like Moiraine was taking a bath or anything like that. She's Corinian and comes from a more conservative background. So when Perrin opens the door, she closes her robe, as is proper for a conservative person. I think Perrin is embarrassed because of what he thinks he could have walked in on, but it's not a sexy thing or revealing in any way. What do you think?
I do think that Moiraine was naked under her open robe.
Oh, okay.
The room smelled of rose-scented soap, so the implication is that she had a bath.
All right.
But, I mean, she closes it pretty quickly, so I don't think Perrin had much chance to look. And I absolutely disagree with anyone who describes the scene as sexual tension.
Okay.
Like, there is nothing sexy about it.
I don't think so.
So, here's the thing. Perrin doesn't see Moiraine as a woman. He gets lost in her station and hardly sees her as human. Like, in some ways, an Aes Sedai is a whole other creature to him. Perrin is confronted here with Moraine's womanhood. At the end of the day, no matter how many strings she's pulling or what she can do with the power, she's still just a human woman. He's embarrassed to have caught her in an indelicate moment, but he's also uncomfortable thinking about her in those terms, like as just a regular person. At least that's my take on what this scene is here for. Because there's really no reason for this scene, and that's the only thing I could come up with.
No, I like what you're saying there. Like, yeah, he's having to be forced to see her as an actual, like, fallible human for the first time.
And, like, a normal person,
right.
You know? Like, because she's not only, like, stripped of her clothing in a literal sense, but she's stripped of that mantle of being Aes Sedai here.
Right.
Like, she's bare down to the core of what she is. She has nothing to hide behind. There's nothing covering up just the core of being a normal human woman. You know, like symbolically or whatever.
Right.
So I don't know. Again, I don't know what Jordan was doing with this scene. It's short and inconsequential, but the only reason I can think of for it to even be there is to have Perrin confront who Moiraine is, because it's really easy to forget. And we've had this conversation in regards to Swan, you know, about how there was a scene where it's when Egwene is in Swan's office when she is telling Egwene and Nynaeve about the Black Aja and sending them to like hunt the Black Aja and all that. There's a moment where Egwene realizes that Swan is scared, I think.
Right.
And Egwene's like, oh, no. I don't want to think about her having simple human emotions like fear. Because she's the Emerald Seed, and the Emerald Seed is a thing unto itself. Like, it's infallible and all this different stuff.
Yeah.
And she's put Swan on such a high pedestal because of her station. And that moment she realizes that Swan is just a woman, just a normal person, just like Egwene.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a similar thing here, where Perrin is realizing that Moiraine is just a person, like everybody else. It's just she has certain gifts and experience. And it's really uncomfortable for Perrin to think those thoughts, because he's grown up vilifying Aes Sedai and thinking them as monsters and thinking of them as mythical beasts. And having to be confronted with an Aes Sedai who is, in fact, just a normal person is hard to reconcile, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my take. I don't know.
So on to what really matters in this chapter, Perrin setting Gull free.
Uh-huh.
Can we just take a moment to recognize Perrin's strength?
Yeah.
The last time we had any kind of indication of how strong he is was during the battle with the Trollocs at the beginning of the book. But that was battle frenzied and adrenaline charged. Mm-hmm. In this chapter, he just walks up to the gibbet, pulls the whole thing up enough to get slack to loosen the other end, and then hand over hand lowers it to the ground.
Yeah.
Later we find out it took 3 men to hoist the thing up. Even for a blacksmith, this is some serious upper body strength.
For sure. Yeah. Perrin is a beast.
And I like how Perrin is throwing shade on the craftsmanship of the cage.
Yeah.
Like, we get this line, if a thing was made, even a thing like this, it should be made well. Mm-hmm. And then he proceeds to exploit the shoddy work and break the chain holding the cage shut. But he thinks the exact same thing again when Gaul doesn't get out of the cage right away. At his core, Perrin is a bit of a perfectionist. If he's going to do something, even break a prisoner free, he's going to do it right.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that Jordan makes sure to let us know that Gaul has no fear scent. Through the whole situation, from being stoically in the cage to calmly talking to Perrin to having fun fighting the White Cloaks barehanded and outnumbered, Gaul is super chill through the whole thing. Nothing phases him.
Nope.
Except when he talks about seeing a river.
Right. So, Gaul gives us a bit more information about who the Aiel are. I grew up in the high desert of Southern California, which is not a barren wasteland, but it is kind of desolate. Every time we get one of these passages about who the Aiel are and what kind of place they come from, it kind of reminds me of my childhood. And when Gaul talks about there being so much water in the wetlands, I totally get it. Mm-hmm. When I was in high school, we flew to Orlando, Florida, and marched in a parade at the Magic Kingdom in Disney World. I remember getting off the plane and feeling like the air had thickened and that it was suddenly hard to breathe. Mm-hmm. And everywhere that we looked, there was some body of water. It was just so different. I kind of get that image that Gaul is going through the same thing here, or something similar.
Yeah. Yeah. Having been to Florida and having tried to breathe that thick human air.
Yeah.
It's very, very different. I don't realize how arid the air is here in Southern California until I go traveling somewhere else. And I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about. I guess it is the desert.
Okay. Yes, even in LA.
Humidity is terrible.
What's the best way to ruin the perfect start to a budding new bromance? White Cloak showing up and trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So how do you turn it around? Completely wipe the floor with them using only your bare hands.
Because if someone tries to kill you, you kill them right back.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, Gaul is basically a trained desert ninja and has a life worth of battles under his belt. However, it's still really amazing. And there's something about fighting off people who are trying to kill you that creates a bond between people. This is the start of a really great relationship between Perrin and Gaul.
Yeah, it totally is. Like, I love Perrin and Gaul's relationship. They treat each other with so much mutual respect. They both come from such different backgrounds, and they obviously confuse each other sometimes, but it's never met with judgment.
Right.
You know, like, they just kind of shake it off and move on. Like, some people juggle geese, whatever. But they're always supporting each other, and I really, really like it. You know, I kind of forgot about this, but Perrin winds up killing a lot of White Cloaks throughout this series.
He really does.
Like, the first 2 from the Eye of the World caused him the most trouble, but they were just the beginning.
Yeah. Well, they kind of started it.
Yeah, they started it. Well, I mean, the White Cloaks are always starting it. You know, I mean, it's not like Perrin's going out like, come here, White Cloaks, come here, White Cloaks, I'm hunting you down, I'm going to kill you dead. Like, he never starts the fight. He just finishes it.
Because he's a finisher.
But, like, they're always talking about those first 2, so I sort of forget the other White Cloaks that Perrin kills along the way.
Yeah.
You know? And, I mean, he didn't kill all of the ones here. And, I mean, to be fair, Gaul did most of the killing.
Sure.
But he did kill a couple, so, I mean, it does keep happening.
Yeah, it's easy to lose track. Because they do keep coming back to just those 2 that he actually stands trial for.
Yeah, but it wasn't just those 2.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We rarely see Lan get pissed to the point where he gets physical with people. To his credit, it took him walking into the aftermath of Perrin's fight to make it happen. I mean, after trying so hard to keep their identities hidden and not raise too much suspicion, Perrin goes off and does this. Bodies are everywhere, many are dead, some obviously cut down with an axe, and an Aiel has been set free. And there's at least one confirmed witness that the whole thing is tied back to Perrin. If there was ever a way to make Lan blow his cool, Perrin found it.
He's good at that.
Yeah. That's it for chapters 33 and 34, The Dragon Reborn. Join us next week to discuss chapters 35 and 36, where Perrin needs to make a quick escape and, surprised to find a new addition to their group. Then, later Rand is still having issues.
Yeah. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Wheel of Time Pod-Thru.
We'll see you again next week. Make sure you rate and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever your favorite podcatcher might be. If you could leave us a positive review, it would really help us out. It makes us more visible so more people can find us. You can tweet us at WhatPodThru or email us at whatpodthru@gmail.com and tell us your thoughts on anything we covered today.
That's WOTPODTHRU@gmail.com. Or find our Wheel of Time Pod-Thru channel on YouTube. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, do the things. Thanks, everybody, and we hope the wheel weaves you in our direction again soon.